Star Citizen opened up Wave 1 testing for their long-awaited 3.20 patch, bringing with it the biggest cargo ship the game has ever seen, a brand new planet, kind of, tons of new multiplayer modes, a test of their new flight model and weapon aiming system, which changes like everything in the game, and more bugs than Peter Jackson's King Kong movie. Hey guys, LevelCap here, and I've been playing Star Citizen's new PTU patch over the weekend. Patch 3.20 is an alpha patch of an alpha game, and frankly, it plays like one. Server crashes, random deaths, all the fun menu and station landing bugs that you love. It's not an experience I would recommend to a casual fan. But there is a lot of content. Well, I don't know if content's quite the right word. There's a lot of stuff in this patch, some of which is content, but most of which is half measures to something that will hopefully be cool once they get more polish into it. Also known as your typical Star Citizen patch. Sorry if I sound a little cynical on this one, you tend to get that way when wading through all the PTU bugs. Now first things first, the Hull C is the massive new cargo ship in the game, whose radar signature totally doesn't look like a giant space wiener.
Oh my God.
Joking aside, it's actually quite a beautiful ship and one of the bigger ones that we've seen in quite a while. It features a very cool transforming sequence where the cargo racks unfold from the midsection. When unfolded, this ship cannot land on planets or pads, so it's basically only for transporting cargo in space. It can of course land when not in the cargo mode, which is still a useful feature. Internally, the ship is quite impressive, though a bit buggy. The midsection of the ship had some issues, making it untraversable while I was playing, so I was only able to get to the aft section by using the airlock. The internals of the ship though are just gorgeous, and it reminds me why Star Citizen really does stand out from the crowd. There's a 4-bunk crew quarters and mess hall, a super sci-fi-y engineering bay, the bridge has a classic Star Trek style captain's chair, similar to that of the Starfare, and there's a cool suit locker section before the main airlock. Sadly, the tractor beams are not yet attached to this ship, which will be the main way it's supposed to load and unload cargo, but it does have some remote turrets in front and back. Even the pilot gets some tiny little repeaters just for the lulz, I guess. Now with the Hull C comes a new cargo loading system. Buy your cargo at the admin station on a space station, fly the Hull C to a designated place in space around that station, and wait for your ship to get loaded with cargo. This system can take up to 5 minutes long. Luckily, it's a placeholder mechanic, so hopefully whatever they're replacing this with will be more entertaining or at least interesting. But you can only load the cargo at the 4 main LEO stations, so gameplay with this ship may be extremely limited when it first launches. There's also new massive SCU crates going up to 32 SCU in size. It means less crates while you're hauling and just having a lot more big crates. You may have also noticed we're at a new space station. This is Seraphim Station, a replacement to the old Port Olisar above Planet Crusader. It's a station that looks like a station and does the same station stuff as the other 3 LEO stations. Not the most exciting update, but while flying through the rings, I found a cool invisible wall. So yeah, it's got some of Olisar's legacy features in there as well. Now, one of the biggest changes with this patch is an Arena Commander overhaul, the front end mode where you can play TDM style spaceship or infantry combat matches. The new front end is unquestionably way better than before, and the modes offered are much more expansive. Players can now race on a ton of different racetracks from around the verse. There's a new gun game style mode for infantry combat that's actually pretty fun. The Pirate Swarm mode now ends with an Idris and Javelin fighting it out, though in my session the Javelin bugged out and kept shooting a dead spaceship, so it was a bit anticlimactic. There's also a tank team battle and tank royale mode that spawns you into tanks and you get to shoot at other tanks on a planet. It's a great way to familiarize yourself with just how clunky Star Citizen's land vehicles are. This update is going to be huge for the game, allowing players to test a lot more stuff, but it does need a way to see how populated modes are so that you can find matches faster. Now, one of the new experimental modes for Arena Commander lets you test out master modes in combat. Honestly, I was expecting this alone to be the main draw of the patch for me. Master Modes is such an important update for the game, as it's designed to establish the fundamentals of spaceship combat. This is probably the most important element of the game to get right, and to do it as soon as possible so that the devs can, build a game around how spaceships are supposed to fight each other. Finally. However, the implementation of master modes here is extremely buggy and weird. I wasn't able to get a crosshair or targeting pip on my screen, and the targeting system seems to be bugged, so it kind of rendered most of the testing worthless, in my opinion. I will say that the reduced SEM engagement speeds do increase the amount of close quarter combat with more turn fights and less jousting, so things tend to look a lot cooler, which was one of the goals of master modes. Switching between locked and gimbaled fire modes is now a really interesting trade-off. Gimbals give your guns a huge amount of target tracking and auto-aim, where they can shoot way off center and still land shots. But switching to locked mode, where your guns just shoot in a straight line forward, it actually doubles your ship's rate of fire. This will be an extremely useful feature for onboarding low skill and newer players, and let them land a lot of shots using the gimbaled mode. A group of low skill players should be a much bigger threat now, as many of them are going to be landing their shots even if they're firing at half the rate of fire. They'll at least be hitting their opponent much more frequently. But as those newer players get a little more experienced with flying ships and shooting at targets, they may want to switch between gimbaled and ungimbaled mode to practice targeting in a more challenging environment. It just seems like an easy way to onboard that higher skill gameplay. Conceptually, I love this approach to combat, but it's not really properly testable without a targeting pip. I'm not even sure why they bothered pushing master modes out to test without it. In my opinion, this feature needs the highest level priority focus, since every other system in the game will ultimately have to balance around it. And the missile overhaul should be paired with this as well, since it's so crucial to basically all space combat strategies. Now, a cool new arena for Arena Commander is a brand new planet, Planet Green. It technically only exists in Arena Commander right now, since it belongs to a faraway system not yet in the game. But the devs were able to use their planet building tools to create the planet and let players race and fight around it. You can even land on it and go for a hike if you want. It certainly looks nice for the most part, though a bit simple. It's definitely a cool way to see what other parts of the galaxy might look like, even if we can't get there in the PU yet. Now, there's a bunch of other new elements in the patch, some new illegal salvage missions, and some slight updates to bunker exteriors. Enemy AI ships are now supposed to fly a more diverse set of ships, so you're not going to run into the same enemy targets over and over again, which could be big news for people who like to run bounty missions and combat missions. Plus, there's a ton of ship balance tweaks coming as well. The bugs, however, in this public test universe patch are innumerable. So much stuff is broken, laggy, and crashing. It's a rough testing process, but the devs need to get through it if they want to push 3.20 live soon. Everything cool in this patch kind of has the wind sucked out of its sails for the moment. The whole sea is gorgeous, but it has very little gameplay or reason to exist without hauling missions and more extensive trading options. Its tractor beams are not yet functional, and the placeholder mechanic just has you wait for like 5 minutes while you watch boxes go onto your ship, which is pretty darn boring. Master Modes has major bugs, making it pretty much impossible to give proper feedback. The new Pirate Swarm mode that I was looking forward to, where the capital class ships fight, was bugged out, so the final wave of the fleet battle was really underwhelming. And the Arena Commander rework couldn't get in some of the biggest features, like being able to spawn as a gunner for somebody else. So basically, large fleet battles where you have a multi-crew ship are not really doable until that happens. It's all technically good progress, but it feels short by unfinished features. It's like delivering somebody a brand new car, but it's missing 2 wheels. Sure, it might look nice, but you can't do much with it until you get the other wheels. And thus is the life of playing a work-in-progress alpha game. Mentally, I often still think of big patches more like live service DLC DLC content, but really they are just that. Patches that are trying to inch Star Citizen's multiplayer build closer to something more complete and not worry so much about every new feature being completed before it comes into the game. 3.20 seems like it's a decent half step toward making really important updates to the game, but it's hard to get excited about those updates since they lack so much polish in their first implementation. Maybe patch 3.2.1 or something will round out some of these areas in a more satisfactory way. Now, in the big picture, Star Citizen recently just surpassed $600 million in crowdfunding, which is absolutely bananas. And it's a little less than 2 months away from the major CitizenCon event taking place in LA at the end of October. CitizenCon is usually where the devs show off the latest, biggest, coolest features that they're working on. They usually put a lot of work into the show to hype players up, and many players are predicting some Squadron 42 news this year. A release date would certainly be exciting, but we'll have to wait and see. What do you guys think about this latest Star Citizen PTU patch? Are you excited about this patch hitting live servers, or is it a little underwhelming? Next up, check out this video showing off some piracy gameplay in Star Citizen. The latest patch really enables all kinds of new piracy opportunities, and we took full advantage of that. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.